So now we talked about how you moved from, only working with PHP to more component-based frameworks like Vue. You use Vue, and then back to using both PHP and Vue. And I would like to maybe, I think it's interesting to understand more how do you use them together. And I suppose on the server side you use Laravel. You said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you detail this architecture and when do you use one, when do you use the other, and
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll explain it in just refresh you in the story. So started in PHP where everything's PHP, the backend logic, controller, MVC, model view controller, and then got into Vue a little bit, and then Vue became my entire front end. And so basically the way that you would read about of fetching data in a Vue component is Axios or some AJAX request to fetch data. So naturally before, when you would just pass data into a Vue in classic MVC style, where from a controller you return a view and you pass data in. Is that familiar?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the old way. Where this way I go, okay, well now I need an API endpoint. If it's a user's page, I have my user controller on the back end that returns a view that might just return a user's view component. VUE. It's hard with the VIEW and VUE.
Yeah.
And then the view component boots up and then hits a separate API endpoint called /API/users that fetches all the JSON, boots up the view component. Maybe I have a loading wheel and then shows the whole view component. And that sort of became the way that I was writing apps. And I think it's a natural progression. I think it's the way that a lot of people, at least in the Laravel community, and I'll speak for the Rails community too, I think there's a lot of similarities there, started writing their apps, where now before we had the simplicity of just PHP all the way, and now we've split it, and now we have two systems. It's still one repo, but we're creating our own API, and our front ends are calling that API.
I will get back to this one repo thing, but first, that evolved that way because front-end became more complex, right? Because in MVC, we had to generate everything, all the rendering on the server.
Exactly. Yeah. So because of the power of something like Vue or React or anything with front-end state, basically, that we could do
front-end state, that's
extremely advanced things with a front-end runtime. A front-end has a runtime now, and you can manage state. And we can, before if I needed a custom date picker, maybe I'd pull in jQuery UI or something. But now if I need some custom input element that's like bespoke from my own company, I have to roll up my sleeves and write it. And Vue makes that a dream. So Vue makes sense. And I think that's why it became the obvious choice of Vue's awesome, or React. I use them as synonyms. A component-based front-end framework is so powerful. It gives you superpowers. You're not manually wiring up DOM elements. You're just dealing with data, and your templates are reacting. So we did the obvious thing and used it for our entire front ends, but didn't really understand or realize, for me at least, that I was really separating one system into two systems. So now I'm managing two systems with two different languages, two different ecosystems in one project.
Okay, and then how do you manage in the project? Do you have, you said one repo, meaning all the code goes into one repo, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll speak for this quintessential Laravel setup. What I do nowadays is a little bit different, and we can talk about some of the progression of that. But this quintessential Laravel setup would be one repository, one folder, your Laravel app. And Laravel actually ships with this out of the box. For a while, it shipped with Vue scaffolding out of the box.
Okay.
Now you can choose if you want a Vue path or React path. And Laravel has a folder called resources and JS, and you can add in your components and a app.js file. And there's the Laravel Mix is a build tool, a JavaScript build tool for Laravel that basically is a wraparound Webpack, so you can build everything yourself. So everything lives inside your Laravel project. But so if I'm writing an app in this, I would write my models and controllers and everything in Laravel. And then when I go to make front-end changes, I'm doing npm run dev or npm run watch. And now I have a Webpack build, and I'm using Vue raw. But my Laravel app is loading the JavaScript that Vue is making, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's all in one house. Yeah.
And so basically, now that you have that, if you think about it, why don't you use Node or Express or anything else instead of?
And so now these questions come. So it's important to know the history, because now you have a question like this: is my whole front end's in JavaScript. Why is the back end in PHP? Why am I not using Node? Great question. I think the simplest answer is Laravel is awesome. So the simplest answer is Laravel provides me with more productivity than any other backend framework per se. So Node, Express is very raw, like bare bones.
Yeah.
So you have to wire a lot of things up yourself. There's other Happy.js, I think, is something in the Node community that seems a little more packaged up like Laravel. But Laravel, its ecosystem is I think it's the most robust out there, user friendly. There's lots of things that come out of the box. If I want to make, installing a Laravel app is easy, but then if I need so end-to-end testing, like with Selenium, Laravel Dusk exists. It's turnkey. If I want to make an API, server REST API with OAuth authentication and everything, Passport makes it easy. If I want to interface with Stripe and charge people, Cashier, there's all these things that Laravel has. They have an official backend.
So some kind of modules, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just the whole, the framework itself is so darn productive. So I guess if I'm a Rails developer and I've been programming Rails forever, that's what I would be most productive in. But for me, Laravel is what I'm most productive in, and I think it's a pleasure to use, and it just keeps getting better. So that's why I haven't pivoted myself to Node. Yeah.
And probably there is also a big community behind these modules and all the things that get added to Laravel, so you can get them out of the box, right?
Yeah, the Laravel community in like PHP from the outside, there's kind of this reputation, or it's like this old thing with a bunch of like WordPress developers, and the code's nasty, and it's on the decline. It used to be most of the web, and now it's like this. Well, Laravel is like this shining light in that fog, So Laravel's doing this, and it's becoming more popular. And there's just so much energy and excitement around it. So I don't know. It's where I am,
Great. Well, we'll move then to the next video. Thank you very much for this.
Absolutely.